Hello, my name is Melissa. I'm an embodiment facilitator, also a mother, and an individual living in the big old red apple, New York City. Um, I feel it's been interesting what I've been feeling. I've been feeling lots of energy in my body. I've been noticing how I can see, like in real time, these moments where I was playing in an old identity or experience that told me that it's not possible or that I needed to play small. And, I've been doing the embodiment work more deeply for probably close to 2 years now. And in those 2 years, my life has dramatically changed. I mean, even leading up to those 2 years, because I was doing body work and I was still investing in coaches to help me. And so all of those things got contributed to this unfolding. Everything contributes to your unfolding, even the detours, or we can call them mistakes. When I reflect back on all of those moments, I realize had I not gone on that path, I wouldn't have that specific skill of what that experience would have given me and the insight. Because what I see now and feel now as a coach, as a teacher, as someone who's just guiding even her own little child, right? We are all teachers. But what I clearly see is the more you actually experience and the more you pull from those experiences different insights to kind of broaden your perspective, that's what makes a good teacher. Not so much the certifications, the degrees, or the qualifications. It really is about that. And I can say so much to that, whether it was a doctor that I experienced, another trainer when I was a trainer, a physical therapist, a teacher. Like, I can now clearly see it wasn't so much about the certifications and degrees, because some of them had a lot, but the ones who actually navigated life in a way where they truly, gathered and opened themselves up to experience more, were the ones that really stuck with me, and the ones that I can feel had something. There was something about them. But as I'm feeling all of this, I am definitely feeling more bold and more comfortable in who I am, and realizing that we are magic. Going back to, I've been doing this practice for 2 years deeply. My life is completely different. As someone who was struggling in life in all ways, now I've come to a place where I'm not. I still have my challenges. I'm still growing a business, but it doesn't feel like a struggle. It feels like an experiment. It feels like I get to explore. And in the past, especially being a mother and a single mother at that would have felt really reckless. And I realized, like, a lot of the things that we feel, we have been handed, this handbook of what that means. And so fear always meant either you're in the wrong, you're inherently wrong, or you're reckless, or you're not deserving. But I realized fear is literally the boundary of my identity or experience. And if I am grounded in that knowing, if I'm grounded in my body, then I'm able to make a clearer decision and act on it versus running around with that chaotic survival energy trying to figure it out. Which also I realized, like, wow, all that mental obstacles that I created in my head actually made it so hard for me to show up clearly in my actual external reality. so much of motherhood has been that for me, you know. I realized so much of the exhaustion came from the mental gymnastics I was doing in my head, trying to control everything. And the more I inhabited my body, the more I released that handbook that was given to me when I was young about what's right and wrong for a woman, for a mother, for a human. My capacity to experience motherhood and just navigating all these challenges became different. It became more empowering. It became more easy. It became all of these things. And it's not in a way where I feel sometimes, not sometimes, if you're disconnected and you hear all of this language around manifestation, it almost seems like, oh, it's going to happen overnight. Like, you know, I believe in myself and then poof, it'll happen. No, unfortunately, I feel like a lot of us who are waking up to this, or even having the curiosity as to a different way of living, we're now like really wanting to do the inner work. But that inner work that we're doing is not just for ourselves, it's for our parents, it's for our lineage. And so there is this backlog of energy and sensations, and that's something that I came to realize, because I'm like, man, I'm feeling all these things. I'm like, I don't even know why, but I had to let go of trying to find meaning to that and just let that move through my body to release what was not mine, you know. And that's what gave me the capacity within my body, because now I'm not attaching to all these experiences and holding that energy hostage that needed to be processed, to create a different life, to experience it differently. And it comes through first by experiencing yourself differently in the old reality, and then eventually that builds momentum. And another thing I will say is that the feeling comes before the thing actually comes. And it's so interesting. I remember, just to give a background, a year ago, well, it was like 2 years in the leading, when I started to do the deeper work, things started to fall away. My clients started to drop out. I was a personal trainer and I was training remotely, and I had a lot of really long-standing good clients, but I wanted to also not do personal training. But as I made that decision, these clients were leaving me, and I noticed the survival part of me of trying to make them stay, and, you know, rearranging my schedule to make it work for them. And then eventually I couldn't control it, and I lost all of that. And then trying to get new clients based off of the work that I was discovering for myself, because it really did transform my motherhood experience, where I felt like I didn't feel like I was living in a sandbag anymore. I didn't feel like that heaviness. And so I was talking about it day in and day out. And it was true, but at the same time, there was this attachment to, like, this is so dependent on my finances because I'm losing these clients. And so, you know, showing up every day on Instagram and speaking what I'm speaking, but the presence underneath that was still like of fear because of my financial situation. And then eventually all that scrambling around, all that forcing, and then investing more money into coaches and group containers, which I will say, you know, it is sometimes for me too, the work that I do as a mother myself who has experienced this, and also, you know, wanting to serve mothers, it does become a little nuanced, because, you know, money is something that we need to survive. And then when we have children, that becomes like a double layer of pressure that we feel with these stories. And so, you know, I invested more myself, but it was out of an attachment. So if you're a mother watching this and you're like resonating with a lot of this and you want to invest, take your time in investments. I will say that, like, notice what you feel in your body, right? And look at the price, look at the offering, and just let it marinate for a little bit before you make that quick decision. And even if that person is saying, oh, this offer is going to be off the table in a certain amount of time, take your time. And if it doesn't work out, I just believe that it's all timing, you know? And it is up to you. But and this is where it gets nuanced, when you make that decision, right? I could say I wish someone had told me, but I don't think that anyone could tell me. Like, even if they told me, I still feel like I would have felt that fear, or I would have attached to that person's words. But truly learning that you are investing in yourself and not for the external outcome, because the more you invest in yourself truly, because you know you hold value already, that this experience is you just creating that value in external reality for you to just like explore and to strengthen. And but for me at the time when I invested, I was attaching to the teachers, attaching to the program. Like, if I do this and I follow everything they say, I will get there. And also realizing that we're all unique, and so it might work for some people and it might not. And this is why it's so fascinating. This is why it's so frustrating. But to become more aware and to live in your inner authority, you have to let go of the outcome. You have to let go of comparison and just really trusting that you're being led on this journey for a specific reason, and that you are going to receive more. Ultimately, it's like every time you invest something, just knowing you will receive more, whether it's through that program, through that coaching thing, or something else. That's something that I also realized. The more I can open myself up to experience life in a way where abundance is everywhere, just because I invested in one area doesn't mean that it's going to come from there. It can come from somewhere else. And so just really being able to hone that in, and really it's through inhabiting your body. And so, to come into a different experience of yourself and more inner authority, all the things that you were attached to that kind of worked for you are going to be pulled away. And for me, if I was coaching me back then, I would have told myself and given myself more time to inhabit the body versus constantly posting, and to notice that fear and to sit with it versus trying to do more, because I was filling in every space of moment I had with something, because I was just like, I didn't know what to do with uncertainty. And so that's what I would have coached myself to do back then, but I didn't. And so because of that, everything fell apart. I couldn't pay for rent. Luckily, the people that I was staying with, they were really, really kind and not, giving me some peace of mind of like, okay, you don't have to pay for rent, just let us know when you can. And until they were like, okay, like this has gone on long enough. And then moving in with my son's father for a month. And, while I was there for a month, again, same thing, survival. I was posting content, trying to join in whatever free, event or opportunity that felt like aligned with the work that I was doing, and just trying to be useful in the house because I felt like so guilty, until one day I realized, I'm like, oh, I'm not expressing my needs. I'm not speaking clearly because there's just so many things. And once I did that, I was kicked out of that place. And to no fault of my own. Again, when you start to experience yourself differently, all the old relationships and circumstances, they just no longer fit. And so I was kicked out, went into the shelter system, which was really scary, but also very helpful in the line of work that I do around serving women and mothers, is just noticing the energy, noticing the conversations that people were having, and also just the people that are supporting these people, and really realizing how the system is built to keep you in the system and to keep you in survival. It really isn't a space where it helps you heal and flourish, unfortunately. And I'm sure we all know that. But I learned that real time. But I continue to coach myself, and that's when I started to coach myself to like stay in my body. If I feel anything and if I project anything to my son, who was 4 at the time, it's okay. You just apologize, tell him it's not about him, tell him that you're processing, and just stay and allow what's coming through to come through. And then things started to kind of open up for me. I found a job as a fitness manager, which was like perfect because I had a personal training experience and degree, certification, and all these things. And it helped me then to find an apartment, because now that I have this home, I can get an apartment. Got the apartment in Manhattan. And this is, something that was given to me through the system. It's like you need to have a job and meet certain requirements to get this apartment, so that job fit the bill. And even getting the apartment, I just didn't even think about it. I just took the next logical step. So the thing is, you stay in your body, you feel the fear, you take responsibility for any of the projections if need be, especially if it's your children. That's really important, because you are doing this work so that they don't carry that burden like you do. So it's important to return to them. And I, simply stated, it's like, when I get angry at you, it's not because of you. You are whole. Mommy values you. You are so lovable. It's just mommy's body is feeling stuff. And I'm practicing feeling without getting angry at you, right? And so explaining it that way, however you need to, is really important while you're in this process of doing the inner work. I think a lot of moms steer away from that because they're like, oh, I don't want to be, I don't want to not be there for them and have them see me this way. But first of all, if I saw my parents go through what I did, the crying and getting angry, but then apologizing to me, I feel like that would have really been tremendously helpful and would have shifted my relationship with them as well. And also would have modeled to me, what it's like to take responsibility for what I'm feeling, and that what I'm feeling is true and valid. It has nothing to do with my worth. And also then being able to take clear responsibility over, okay, what are the next action steps that are good for me, not in a way to hide, to perform, or manipulate. And so, I doubled down on the feeling. And then, I had this feeling that I was going to get the apartment, but everyone was telling me you're not going to get it. There are people in the shelter for over a year with nothing. So I didn't really think too much of it, but I was like, I don't know why. I just feel like I'm going to get this apartment, but whatever. I'm not going to think about it. And so I showed up to work, did my daily thing, and continued to process. And I got an apartment. And I was only in that shelter for 3 months, which is unheard of. Even my, what are those people called? Social worker was like, wow, you must be some lucky person. Because while I was in there, everything just seemed to work out for me, even with my son's school, because I had to transfer him. So we get to the apartment, and now I'm here. And I just, when I look back on that year, because this was all of it was 1 year, exactly 1 year ago, this is when it all started to happen. I struggled in a sense that I was feeling so much, but I think about the actions I took. It wasn't really so much struggling with actions. It was feeling, and then just taking the next logical step that was presented in front of me. And as someone, and I feel like many moms are like this, who always needs to figure it out and, can't deal with uncertainty, what we have to realize is that's not sustainable because there's always going to be uncertainty. And so when we can just meet ourselves in the uncertainty, take that action and then just relax. Move on to the next thing, and giving yourself also the space to slow down. Interestingly enough, the more I slow down, the more I get done. Because a lot of the quickness of doing is actually our minds moving really quickly while we're trying to do the external things. So those two things are operating at the same time, expending a lot of energy. An example is the dishes. I don't like doing the dishes, but I remember doing the dishes when I was not as connected to my body, and how it just felt like a forever task. And I'm just thinking about all the things I need to do and feeling like so angry. Now I do the dishes and I don't really like it, but I'm like, oh, it literally only takes me like 10-15 minutes to do dishes for me and my son. And now that I know that, I don't do the dishes right away. I like let the dishes from breakfast sit, and then after lunch preparing, then I do the dishes. That's something I would have never done, and I know lots of moms can resonate with that. And so that's been the ultimate kind of proof for me, like, yeah, how inhabiting my body, honoring my experiences, letting that go so that I have the capacity to experience myself differently and to experience more joy and abundance in all areas of my life is really through my body, and that all the actions that I need to take comes from that place. It comes really clear. And also the byproduct of that is learning to trust my own body, right? Like as women, how, that conversation, especially now with like nervous system regulation and coming back into our bodies, how our bodies have been, extracted from, weaponized, all these things. So what's the best way to counter that, to like fully inhabit our bodies and live through that embodiment? And so I see the power in that now. And what I also see right now is I feel like we're all being asked to do this and to stop living life on the sides. A lot of, we call like celebrity people or people that we pedestal, whether it is in like the media and movies or even within the spiritual realm, like that's all being really exposed as to how they're not, you might say, as grounded individuals, as kind-hearted individuals as you may have thought. And I don't think that it's out of malice. I feel that, again, we're all at a space where we're kind of becoming more aware, and it's hard to look away from these things just with the amount of access we have. But realizing that these people that we used to pedestal are not above us, and that we, just like them, can create a reality that we want to live in and to share that. But that starts with you first, with us. And for mothers, we get to do that as mothers, because not only are we doing the inner work for ourselves, naturally the byproduct is your children inherit that. They see that. Children don't listen, by the way. Like, children do not listen. They feel and they learn from what you do, and they become some version of yourself. Because my God, now that I look at myself, I'm like, I'm actually some version of both of my parents, my dad and my stepmom. And I remember saying, I don't ever want to be like them. And sure, I'm not like them in a sense that, they don't exercise and they have certain lifestyles, but the way that they operate in survival patterns, in blame, and needing to fix and needing to, perform for other people and present themselves a certain way. I'm like, I'm literally them. And that wasn't learned through what they told me, because they always told me, like, work really, really hard, and if you work hard, then money comes, and marry rich. I didn't do any of those things. I was like so allergic to money. I was like, I don't want to be around money because my parents are like this and I don't like them. And so they said to, earn money. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do the quite opposite. But you understand what I'm saying. It's not the actions that we take, but it's the way that we navigate life in this way that keeps us in a survival loop. If you pay attention, you will notice that you are probably operating on some version of your parents' patterns. And so, yeah, we're being asked to do it differently. And the beautiful part of technology, and I want to kind of infuse that in, and end it here, is that, at first I used to have an issue with social media and the technology, but I realized it's really taking things off our plates so that we have the time to do the inner work. Like, unfortunately, my parents didn't have the time to do the inner work. I mean, I'm sure if they made time, they could have, but either way, what I'm saying is everything is so much more easier. You just have to admit that. It's much more easier. And so it's giving us the opportunity to inhabit our bodies more. But if you're in your survival patterns, you're not in your body, you're going to see all of this information as overwhelm and needing this and that and that. When you're in your body, you know what you need, and you know you don't need it in excess, and you stay true to the things that actually help your body and in a way that connects you. Maybe I'll do a talk on my next video around the body and just like fitness, especially fitness, because it is the thing that got me into this work, but I also see how there are survival patterns that can be hijacked through fitness, through health, in a way where then fitness and health becomes kind of like this really intense attachment and addiction. And I used to think addiction only had to do with drugs and alcohol, but I realized addiction is everything. If you're attaching, your value, your productivity to anything outside of you, that's an addiction. And really, as humans, we're meant to not attach to productivity and learn to inhabit our bodies more. Therefore, having more of the unique ideas and opportunities and creations that continue to create more of that for us to grow, versus like that hamster wheel. You could be at a hamster wheel and be at a very high level, office position or owner of a business, and high level working, like, doing the dishes and doing that kind of thing, right? So those two ways are no longer operating. We're being asked to really meet ourselves and to live a life of abundance that was built for us, that doesn't look like anyone else's as well. So I will leave it at that. There's just a lot of things. I feel like every day, almost like in the mornings especially, and then the evenings, I'm just noticing these things. I'm noticing a lot. But if you slow down to pay attention to what you're feeling in your body, and you do that consistently, you'll notice, and then you'll start to be able to have the capacity to stop feeding into those loops and to experience yourself differently. And now, if any of this resonated and you are a woman, you do not have to be a mother. My 6-week mentorship, Mother as Source, is for you. I would love to guide you on your journey. I know how hard this journey can be. I did it primarily on my own. I needed some coaches to help me along the way. But yeah, I'm here for you. And I am just an ongoing thing, offering 20-minute free sessions, which is not a coaching session, not teaching you anything, but it's just an opportunity for you to be witnessed and to be heard. And what I would be doing mostly in these 20-minute sessions is reflecting back and really kind of guiding you back to your body versus continuing to dissect a story, because that's like traditional therapy. So yeah, if that is also something that you would like to experience, that is also available for you, and giving you a taste of, what my coaching style is. So I'm sending you so much love, and I will hop on here again soon. Bye, guys.